Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Craig Burrell, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Flight Sergeant Luke Walker, Conspicuous Service Cross. We warmly welcome the family of Sergeant Norman Leslie Oliver, whose story will be told shortly. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony around Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by family and visitors. Please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the hearts of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Sergeant Norman Oliver. Popularly known as Les, Norman Leslie Oliver was born in Fitzroy, Victoria in 1889. When war broke out in 1914, his family were living in the Lake Grace area in southeast Western Australia, where he was working as a farmer and a mill hand. Oliver enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force shortly after the outbreak of war in 1914, was posted to the 12th Battalion and left Fremantle on the 31st of October 1914 on the troop ship Medic. After a period of training in Egypt, the 12th Battalion landed on Gallipoli in the early hours of 25th of April 1915. The battalion was heavily involved in establishing and defending the front line of the Anzac position, and in August contributed 2 companies to the attack on Lone Pine. It was the only battalion in the brigade to do so. Oliver was evacuated from Gallipoli with influenza on the 7th of September. He was also passing blood in his urine, something he assumed was because a sandbag had dropped on his back some time before. However, it was discovered that he probably had a kidney stone and he was sent back to Australia for an operation. Oliver re-enlisted in the AIF as soon as he recovered and was posted to the 16th Battalion. He left Australia in October 1916 on board the Suffolk and went to England before being sent to fight on the Western Front. Oliver proved to be an able soldier and was promoted a number of times, reaching the rank of sergeant in September 1917. Shortly after his final promotion, Sergeant Oliver took part in operations near the Belgian town of Zonnebaker. His battalion reached their objective, at which point he took a small section of snipers into no man's land to cover the rest of the battalion as they worked on consolidating their new position. While he was doing this, Sergeant Oliver accounted for an entire gun crew at close quarters with his rifle, continuing until he was badly wounded. His actions were later put forward for commendation. The citation concluded that during the whole operation, his leadership and example was such as to inspire the greatest confidence in all men in his vicinity. He is strongly recommended for high distinction. Sergeant Oliver was awarded the Military Medal. He was evacuated to England to treat the gunshot wound he suffered to his back and spine, which rendered him paraplegic. He died of his wounds at the King George Military Hospital in London on the 5th of November 1917 and was buried in the Australian Military Burial Ground at Brookwood Cemetery. He was 29 years old. Leslie Oliver's name is listed on the Roll of Honour to my right, among more than 60,000 Australians who died during the First World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. Leslie is standing to the left. His brother Alfred is standing on the right, while their father William is seated. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Sergeant Norman Leslie Oliver, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. Thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and good evening.